Hi there, I'm Kira and welcome to the first day of your somatics journey. Now, if you've done somatics before, this isn't your first day of this journey, but it is your first day with us, and so what this video is meant to do is get you ready to dive right in with our regular group practices as if you've been doing somatics like it's already a part of you, right? So I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about how I came upon somatics. I'll tell you a little bit about how somatics works, the science behind it a little bit. And then from there, I want to share with you a few somatic principles that I wanna make sure that you bring into your practice when you're coming into the group setting or individual setting, but obviously you're watching this video, so the online group setting is what we're going to be talking about. So how did I find somatics? It's kind of an interesting story because I am not a person who's dealt with a lot of chronic body pain in my life. Maybe little things here or there, but I've never actually been interested enough to go and explore how to get rid of it. However, my business partner, Carrie, always dealt with chronic body pain, mostly low back pain due to years of ballet and dance. So in her explorations to find things to relieve her pain, she came across clinical somatics. And she's shared many of the modalities that she's explored with me. However, this one was the one that caught my ear. What you have to understand about me is I've been a gym rat since the age of 15, and I love building muscle and building muscular strength and endurance. One of the issues with doing that, however, is that frequently you can't build more strength and endurance on top of a muscle because the functionality of a muscle is all wrong. And I saw it over and over again in my clients, regardless of how long they've been with me, regardless of how dumbed down we brought an exercise, how small we made the movement. For some reason, there were movements that many of my clients couldn't get. And what I realized and discovered when I discovered somatics is that many of those clients had lost the ability to actually communicate with those lengths of their muscles, such that they actually didn't even have it available for them when trying out a move. So that's kind of problematic, right? You're trying to build a muscle, but you're constantly being pulled in an opposing way. So for example, a functional fitness trainer would look at somebody who does this, and they'd say, well, that person needs to strengthen their back. It's probably a pretty good assessment. A somatics movement teacher would look at someone who looks like this, and they'd say, oh, that person needs to release their chest. What you can start to see now is that it's two sides of the same coin. One set of muscles should be stronger, one set of muscles needs to be more released. And strengthening muscles that are being pulled the other direction isn't a really smart way to go about strengthening muscle unless you love chronic body pain. So, somatics was that access point for me and for my clients, and it has proved to create so much more strength, so much more freedom in motion that I'm never going back. So I hope that you find that to be the case for yourself in whatever you're trying to create in your body. So how does clinical somatics work? Well, we as humans have these survival mechanisms in our bodies, and we're very grateful for these survival mechanisms. They're not a bad thing. They're a necessary part of our survival. However, when those survival mechanisms are the norm, that's when we start to get into trouble. And if you're not doing anything to release those survival mechanisms, guess what? They become the norm. I mean, think about what your day is like when you're going through your day and all of these different sensory stresses are coming in at you, and then you're doing nothing to actually release the tension of all of that stress, all of that signaling, that incoming signaling. So the three reflexes that we go into without our consciousness telling us to do so is the red light reflex, right? So we hunch up shoulders, shorten the front side of the body, curl up, protect ourselves, like the protection mechanism, the what am I looking for? The fetal position, the freeze mechanism. That was the word I was looking for. That's your red light reflex. We have a green light reflex. The green light reflex is like a soldier, right? This person is your go-getter. Go, fight or flight, tight low back, chin is tucked, shoulders back, okay? And then we have the trauma reflex. The trauma reflex is the lopsided reflex. People have everybody has a trauma reflex on some level, trust me. But generally you see them largely in people who have dealt with a lot of injury, especially one-sided injury, because they've had to baby a part of their body for a certain amount of time, and then their body starts to memorize that movement. And y'all, it only takes about 6 weeks for the human body to really adapt something as its own. So think about an injury that you've had, a leg injury, an arm injury, how long that injury lasted, and what remnants of that injury could actually be memorized into your body right now, and what that could be creating for your entire system. So we have the red light reflex, we have computer guys, we have people who are really like dealing with depression or anxiety, people who are really tall having to constantly like bend over to like reach their peers. That's our red light. Our green light is our go-getters, our construction workers, our people who are type A, runners. Runners are very green light because running it's a green light movement. It's go, go, go. And then our trauma, which I explained to you, are folks who are dealing with lateralization, one side over the other. If you've ever had a chiropractor or a doctor tell you one leg is longer than the other, that's probably not the case. You're probably just shortened by your muscles on one side over the other. And that's how the trauma reflex shows up. So those are the reflexes. Now, how do we get out of those reflexes? How do we get out of those memorized ways of being? Memorized ways of being called sensory motor amnesia, or what we refer to as SMA. Well, we do a movement called pandiculation. And to be fair, pandiculation is actually a series of 3 movements. It is a contraction into the muscle that we wish to release. It is a slow, very slow, smoothing and releasing of that muscle all the way to neutral. And I always tell people, go as slow as you can without stopping the movement, and smooth out all the bumpy, jerky, shaky along the way. And as you're doing that slow release, that's when you're actually connecting your brain and your body. And you're saying, see, look, here's a space to actually like glom onto and learn to control. And then you come to a complete neutral, complete rest, a complete letting go, such that your brain and your body can recognize the new possibility, the new length. So that's the practice of somatics, and we use all kinds of different movements to pandiculate so that you can experience yourself in all of the planes of motion in all kinds of different ways, because our body moves in limitless amounts of ways. So when you get up off your mat at the end of your somatics practice and you go out into the world with this new possibility and this new length, you start to notice things that you didn't notice before. Ways of being that have always been there, but now suddenly they seem new, because now your brain and your musculature understand their true length. Therefore, you can sense tension much more easily, and that awareness allows you to transform that tension on a dime, and with that transformation, the sky's the limit. And that's how clinical somatics works. So remember, our pandiculations are a contraction into a muscle, a smooth release down, and a complete rest. I want you to get into a comfortable position right now. And let's go ahead and practice a pandiculation right here and right now, just in a seated position, so that you can really experience what it's like with, and having gotten all this new information right now. So close your eyes if you're in a safe space. Now go ahead and shrug your shoulders, up to your ears and notice the contracting of maybe your neck, the tops of your shoulders, maybe your jaw. And then now, as slowly as you can, smooth out the release, releasing the shoulders down, noticing the lengthening of the musculature of the neck and the top of the shoulders until your brain says you're at completely relaxed. And then completely release and let go and take a deep breath. And then go ahead and do it again. Shrug your shoulders up towards your ears. Once you notice the contraction, slowly release. Smoothing out all the bumpy, jerky, shaky along the way. Discovering all of that new control over the muscle. And then completely release yourself to neutral. Take a deep breath. So that is how pandiculation works. Okay, so before I end this video, there are a few principles I want to share with you before you go into your practice. One of the principles of somatics that you'll notice and that you'll hear myself cueing every now and again is that when one side of your body contracts, the other side of it actually lengthens, whether we know it or not. It's the way the body works. It's the two-sided duality of the body, right? So when we were doing that shoulder shrug, and I chose the shoulder shrug because most people deal with tension up here in what's called the upper trapezius. So when we were doing the shoulder shrug, you may have noticed the shortening of your neck muscles and of your traps here, but what you may not have noticed is the lengthening of your latissimus dorsi, the lengthening of your intercostal muscles of your rib cage, the lengthening of your mid-trap, all of the things that actually have to lengthen in order for one side of the body to contract. Even a bicep curl lengthens your tricep. Even it doesn't feel like a stretch, but the muscle has to give in order for its opposing muscle to contract. Otherwise, contraction is not possible. Okay? So one side lengthens, the other side shortens. It's all over the place in somatics. Another principle that I want to share with you of somatics is that we work from the center of the body out to the periphery of the body. Every single movement we make in life starts from the center of our body, starts from our spine, starts from the thing that's driven, boom, from our brain right down the middle of our body and then out. So even a wiggle of the finger starts all the way from the center. So what you'll start to notice is we really focus on movement that's small and centered. Frequently, if people are getting a little too ancillary, a little too far into the periphery, I'll cue, hey, come back to the center of the body, or notice what your waistline is doing. Notice what your spine is doing. And I'll bring you in toward the center of the body so that you can start to notice that instead of noticing what's going on out here. It's a lot easier to notice the periphery because we have many, many more motor neurons being delivered to our peripheral parts than we do to our center. Seems silly, I know. I didn't make the rules. I just follow them. So we go from center out to the periphery. And then I would say the last principle of somatics that I really want to be sure to share with all of you is that the movements aren't repetitions. So a lot of us who are used to being exercisers, we're used to having it be reps, right? Oh, and I forget about the people that rep on beat. That's the worst. But, you know, these aren't repetitions. We only usually need about 3 to 6 of the same movement before we move on to the next movement or before we move on to building. So inside of that principle, what I really want to make sure you get is that complete release at the end is vital. Do not allow yourself to move into the contraction again until you completely allow a full release into the mat or into the chair that you're sitting in. And those are the principles of somatics that I wanted to be sure that you went into your practice with knowing. And don't worry, I'll be there to cue all of these items and remind you of all of it. And then eventually, it'll just be who you are and how you be. I'm so excited for you to start this journey, and see you on the other side. Peace.